GT7's latest patch, the September 1.23 update, is of course now live and available, and for those of you who maybe haven't logged in yet, I know some people like to wait for these reviews to see if it's worth coming back, what's the good stuff, what's the not so good, what are the cars like. Well, I will say, by far the standout for me of this update is that Volkswagen ID.R. It's actually in the running for being honestly my favourite car in the game, but that might sound controversial to some of the people who've already driven it, because we're going to get more to that in a second. The handling definitely won't be for everyone, but two of the interesting things about this update are, first of all, that the Silvia was incorrectly advertised in the notes as being a Legends dealer car, which would have made no sense, so thankfully it's in the used dealer for 60,000 credits. About what you'd expect for a legendary JDM car at this point. Then, of course, the Volkswagen is 2 million credits, and the Porsche, the open-top version, which is slightly lower than the hard-top Vision GT on points, 804 compared to around 811, is 1 million. We'll get more into my thoughts on the three cars in a second, but a curious change with this update is a slight reworking of the point system, with relation to suspension and the diff, again according to the notes. Now, unless they've done something wrong, or maybe there's just something wrong with my game, I double-checked in my garage and I have a number, of course, of builds that are for 500 points, 600, 700, 800 points, and none of them have changed. So I'm not exactly sure what this change is all about. Maybe I need to retune the cars to notice the difference. I've heard some people say that they've noticed it mess around with their tunes, but honestly, I haven't noticed any difference at all. So maybe that's a bug. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, because, of course, we've had bugs with updates before. Even recently, the Porsche 918 wasn't correctly implemented, with the hybrid system not really working. I believe that was since fixed, if I recall correctly, so maybe that's happened here again, but for now, doesn't seem to have made any major change. We have some new compilations of scapes, some very nice ones which I'm using for thumbnails over the coming days. And we have a few new events in career mode as well, which, all things considered, certainly won't take you a month to complete, maybe an hour tops if you milk it. So for those of you who are thinking, is this that one update that's going to bring you back? Well, chances are probably not. I do believe, however, as often as I criticise Gran Turismo and Polyphony, and I will continue to do so because I love the franchise so much and I expect better of them, that doesn't mean that we can't still enjoy what we do have. And that is something which I try to always balance the scales on. I compliment plenty of things about Gran Turismo and certainly about the cars in the game. And for me, I can honestly say the Volkswagen ID.R is a massively loved addition by me. I'm glad that it wasn't leaked, I'm really glad that it's here, and it is in the running, quite honestly, for being my favourite car in the game. Now, I'm going to get more in-depth on my thoughts for the three cars, which I'll now touch on briefly in their own individual reviews over the course of this weekend, but for now, the Volkswagen is a monster. Top-end speed, of course, is not that great, being electric. You can't really mess around with the gears, of course, direct drive, so you're looking at around 175 miles an hour at best. However, even in the run that I did on the Nordschleife, my first lap, which was a moderate pace, was just over 6 minutes. Then the second lap, which was much quicker but still bounced off of one hairpin wall, was a 5 minute 56. So even between the first and second lap, there was a massive difference. And you can immediately feel that the car has so much more potential. I think some people might be put off the Volkswagen because of how it reacts under initial throttle when exiting a corner. It has a really strong, very notable shot of understeer that kicks in when you really give it the beans, and it really tries to pull you out into the wall. So throttle control on this car is everything. If you roll onto that throttle as you go through the corner, essentially let the car cruise for the most part through the curve itself, and because you have that instant torque delivery of the electric motor system, you don't waste any time, you don't have to change gear, so don't feel like you're losing any time by coasting through corners. You more than make up for it when you exit the corner. And then, I can honestly say after like a minute or two of driving, I was totally in the flow with it. It's a pleasure to work with, it's an absolute monster. It's definitely a car that you'll have to choose your battles with though because of that limited top speed, but on the Nordschleife it's ballistically quick despite that top speed. And the point level, although high, isn't insane. It's around 860. so it's not like a Tomahawk or a Chaparral in terms of being really difficult to use, but you will have to sacrifice some weight or some power if you want to get it into even close to the 800 region, at least on racing tyres. It does also have a usable DRS system, which is pretty cool, and some modifiable aero bits as well. In terms of the Nissan has some very interesting aero choices. The wide body kit actually doesn't only make the car wider, but it interestingly adds bodywork, like actual panels to the body, and I'm sure there are one or two other examples of that in the game, but I haven't actually noticed that happening before. It legitimately adds extra skirts to the car, not in a dramatic way, but fairly subtle ones, which then have a drastic effect on the body parts that you can fit to it. So if you fit the front, rear and side bumpers, skirts, front and rear, then fit the wide body and go back, the choices of bumper are actually now different. That's quite a nice touch. I do kind of like that. And you'll probably see some of a mix of both in this video, both with just the front skirt and then with the full body kit. It's quite a drastic difference. For the moment, those who are curious, no engine swap on the Silvia. Speaking to engine swaps though, some pretty crazy ones have been added from what I've seen. I don't have, I think, access to all of these at the moment, but a couple of them are quite crazy. There's a Suzuki Escudo engine swap, at least that I saw someone post, which can go into a Mitsubishi Evo 10, which is bonkers. There's, I believe, a Ferrari engine, if I recall correctly. I think it may have been a Ferrari engine that can be dropped into the Alfa Romeo 4C and one or two others. So pretty crazy stuff there. Of course, engine swaps are always a major point of contention in the game, as is being able to sell cars, which, as I'll probably put in the thumbnail, is still not a part of the game. There is no excuse for that. I'm not even going to try and give them an excuse. It's like the easiest thing in the world to implement, and they're clearly just milking, the whole pay real money for credits system, rather than just being able to actually sell cars that you don't want. There is absolutely no excuse for not having that implemented by now. It should have been in from day one. In terms of last, but for most people least, I guess, the Porsche Vision GT Spyder, I actually really like this car. I know a lot of people don't have much time for Vision GTs. Unless you've already skipped this part of the video, which I would urge you not to actually, because you might honestly be missing out on this occasion, I would say that you need to readjust your parameters of thinking when driving this car. If you do win it, or if you choose to buy it, either the hard top or the open top, completely forget that this is a Vision GT. Just put that totally out of your mind, because honestly, it's so much better and so much more enjoyable to drive this car than most of the other Vision GTs. And the reason why is because it feels more real. This honestly feels more like a preview of what a future Porsche supercar will probably be like, rather than a pie-in-the-sky, either just marketing billboard or some crazy, Lamborghini kind of Vision GT, which is just undrivable. This is super fun to use, wonderful to drift with. The performance is very strong despite the top speed not quite breaking 200 miles an hour, and you can actually use it. You can easily get this thing just under 800 points, and for that level it is ballistically fast. Honestly, if you hate Vision GTs, I would urge you to give the Porsche a chance, because it actually is a really good supercar, just regardless of the Vision GT badge. Ultimately, it's not an earth-rocking update for most people, and I'm not going to claim that it is. I love the Volkswagen, of course. The Silvia is an obvious choice to bring back, along with, of course, some more JDM, which we haven't had back yet and probably will. And the Porsche is one which I wish more people had an open mind to, but unfortunately many probably won't. All things considered, it's a bit of a mishmash in terms of things that don't seem to quite be working properly, and of course there are always one or two details here and there that I haven't covered in the video, because I like to leave some things for you to discuss down below, maybe bring up that you think I might have missed, and to chat about. So that's it for my overall thoughts on this 1.23 patch. And of course, if you'd like to hear more about each individual car, then of course stick around for my reviews, and pending a almost certain future update in which we can put an engine swap into the Silvia, I will, as I said before, most likely do a speed tune for that one. Ultimately though, that's it for this vid. Of course, stick around for more coverage of the patch and for the game in general, and until then, I'll see you next time. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.